All right, we're ready to get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to NRHC 2021. I hope all of your presentations have gone well this morning. I've been able to watch quite a few of them and pop my head into a bunch of the Zoom rooms, and they were all fabulous so far. I've been incredibly impressed with your work so far. I should say my name is Chris Britton. I'm the NRHC President-elect and Conference Co-Chair this year. So I really want to thank you just for taking the time to join us on a beautiful Saturday. I'm looking forward to this afternoon's presentations as well, session 3 and 4, as well as tomorrow's presentations, session 5. But before I introduce this year's keynote speaker, I would first like to welcome one of our gold sponsors, Intern Recruitment Coordinator Brett Scharf from the National Society of Leadership and Success is here. He has a brief video he'd like to share with us, and then he's going to just say a few words about NSLS. So let me pull up the video quickly. Okay, can everybody see that?
What makes a leader is humility, compassion, someone who's strong-minded,
driven, ambitious,
motivational, the willingness to humble oneself, and a commitment to service.
It's about having a vision to make a positive impact and then getting a group of people around that vision to make it a reality.
The NSLS internship is an internship where students are starting an organization on campus and hosting events for new incoming members.
You're going to be starting the largest collegiate leadership honor society in the entire country on your college campus that will live and breathe for years and years after you're gone.
I run an executive board of 13 different people. We talk about how we can help our members, how we can connect with our members. Along with that, we attend and we plan and we put the events to motion. I think if I had to say one thing that I was most grateful for the NSLS is that it opened my eyes that I could become better, that it could give me the tools to succeed when I thought that I couldn't.
I read the job description and it was, leadership, being a good example for students, proving your leadership skills. And I just came back from the Air Force. So it kind of coincided with what I wanted to do in my current experiences. One of the biggest things that I've enjoyed is connecting with the members and helping them feel like they have a place, they have something that they can own to their heart.
It's about identifying your strengths, your areas of opportunity, developing them over the course of a year, and then you get to look back at that 365-day younger version of yourself and say, I don't even know who that person is anymore.
I think what sets this internship apart from other opportunities is the actual taking it from an idea. This idea of actually creating a whole new group on campus, this whole new concept, and making it a reality. That you have to take it from concept to execution.
After this, I hope to become a lawyer.
I want to become a servant leader.
To exert pressure on politicians to fight climate change.
I want to become a secondary special education teacher.
A conservational scientist to help preserve global species.
I want to become a better person.
A leader in academic research and theoretical particle physics.
From this internship, I want students to be able to learn what the skills are for them to be successful in that next step after college. Whatever they want to achieve, I want them to learn the skills here with us to go make that a reality.
Okay. All right, so now I'd like to introduce Brett. He's going to say a few words about NSLS.
Thank you. Yes, good afternoon. My name is Brett Scharf, and I am the Intern Recruitment Coordinator at the National Society of Leadership and Success. And the Society is the largest leadership honor society and collegiate leadership development program in the country, working with over 700 colleges and serving more than 1 million members, including Morgan State University, the University of Massachusetts Amherst, and Southern New Hampshire University, which I know some of you are from today. NSLS has a different model than your traditional honor society, for which students must complete our leadership program in order to become inducted. This program is based on our mission of building leaders who make a better world. And to do that, we provide students with training, motivation, inspiration, and the follow-through to put that learning into action. As part of the program experience, students learn from some of the top leaders and speakers in the world. Speakers have included the likes of John Maxwell, Anderson Cooper, and Simon Sinek. As the Intern Recruitment Coordinator, I have the privilege to be here with you as you dedicate your time and energy to learning and making an impact. This upcoming Thursday, I look forward to meeting many of you at the NRHC Expo to discuss the NSLS and our internship opportunity. This position can provide a platform to bring motivated students together who want to enhance their leadership skills. Thank you for having me here today, and I look forward to seeing you at the Expo to discuss this opportunity.
All right, thank you, Brett. Really appreciate you joining us today. All right, and like you said, we have our sponsor expo this Thursday at 4 p.m. So we hope many of you will join us. We have over 10 sponsors and graduate schools. Okay, so it's now my great pleasure to introduce this year's keynote speaker, founder and CEO of Pathways to Housing PA, Christine Simiriglia. As most of you are aware, this year's conference theme is infrequently asked questions, finding solutions to impossible problems. One problem that so many in our society have looked at and deemed too difficult to solve is that of chronic homelessness. We've somehow collectively concluded that it is too difficult or too expensive, or that those who do not have the means to find shelter are not worthy of our attention. And so Christine is an example of someone who identified this problem and has tackled it head on. For 15 years, Christine held several positions with the Mental Health Association of Southeastern Pennsylvania, leaving the position of VP in 2008. And in the early 90s, she worked as an assistant director for the Center City Proprietors Association, which included managing their I Do Care Foundation. Prior to that, she ran the Outreach Coordinator Center at Project Home and was assistant director at the city's newly formed Office of Services to the Homeless and Adults, and served as assistant director for the Philadelphia Committee for the Homeless. She established Pathways to Housing PA in Philadelphia in 2008. Pathways currently serves approximately 550 chronically homeless people with multiple disabilities in permanent scattered site housing using the Housing First and Harm Reduction models. The program has had remarkable results with a population that doesn't usually see a lot of successes. In 2014, she launched the Philadelphia Furniture Bank, providing free furnishings to individuals and families moving out of homelessness. And in 2016, Pathways became the first Housing First program to use a scattered site harm reduction model to work with homeless people struggling with opioid use disorder. And in 2020, Pathways launched Housing First University for agencies and communities looking to adopt the model. I'm not only excited that she's here with us today, but that our 2022 conference in Philadelphia, we are going to explore ways in which our attendees can assist Pathways to Housing before, during, and even after the conference. She has asked me to play a brief video that goes into more detail about her organization. Throughout the video and during her presentation, please feel free to submit questions in the chat, and she would be happy to answer them. So I'm going to start that right now.
Thank you.
After a brief advertisement.
Vacation memory.
Everybody see that okay?
I lived in the streets for a long while. And I didn't care nothing about nobody, family, friends, whatever.
I fought a drug addiction, stayed in and out of jail, homeless.
I felt pretty low, worthless. My self-esteem was very low from living on the streets.
From the age of 18, I struggled off and on with homelessness. I felt like I wasn't a part of society. I felt trapped, like, am I ever going to get out of this?
I got sick out there on the streets, came ill, and I didn't know where to turn to, and I was actually looking forward to death.
I slept in the snow, slept on the ground on boxes with blankets. It wasn't good at all.
We're all interdependent. We've all had help and we've all had opportunities. And a lot of people that are homeless have never had the opportunities to be anything but. And if we create more opportunities, there will be less homelessness. It's about leveling the playing field. And that's what I'm passionate about, leveling the playing field.
I was homeless in the streets for 17 years. By times you do feel, when you're homeless and everything, you feel like the world gave up on you. I guess I just slipped through a lot of cracks and stuff, you know. I was homeless probably between 10 to 15 years.
Pathways is asked by our funders and is motivated by the need in the city to serve the hardest to serve people in our community. We provide homes in a housing first model that practices harm reduction for people who are long-term chronically homeless and have a serious and persistent mental illness.
When Pathways first came to me, I was laying outside the African American building. There's no lie, they know. I used to sleep outside. The lady came by one night, just out of, and people always come by, you sleep on the street and say something to you. And she came, she got my number, she told me, she said, I'll be back. And the whole time I'm living in a box, I'm one that said, oh God, please help me get out of this box. They came to me, one staff members came and picked me up. She said, come on with me. They gave me these keys and they said, this is your apartment. I'm living in a box last night and they come get me and say, this is my apartment.
We believe at Pathways that housing is a basic human right. Everyone has the right to be safe.
Being in my apartment for the first day, I slept in the living room on my couch bed because I wasn't used of being in my apartment by myself.
We meet a person, we build a relationship with the person. When they're ready, we start showing them apartments in the area of their choice. It's relatively inexpensive to house a person with dignity and provide for all of their needs compared to what it costs to have someone stay on the street using emergency services.
Yeah, I was definitely excited. I got to pick what area I was in, everything was brand new. The apartment was brand new. Just having somewhere to stay, just turning the key, just having your own space. That's what I love about it. And you have a lot of support from Pathways.
I really, really, really believe in the housing first model. I believe if you take somebody off the streets and you place them in housing and then worry about substance abuse, mental health challenges, doctor's appointments, if you worry about those things after they become housed, I think that a participant has a better chance of being successful.
I do have cirrhosis of the liver. I've been sober since June 14th. My liver's stable. They've also supported me through that. Pathway is more than just housing. The people there are really genuinely compassionate and caring people. They touch many aspects of my life right now. Coordinating doctor's appointments, going with me to the doctors. They also set me up at the pharmacy.
I come here often to do home visits. Any kind of support that Susan might need. I've gone shopping together. We've gone to doctor's appointments together. We've gone to court together. So basically, and we went to the zoo together. The big necessities.
Yeah. We have had a clinic on site since November of 2008, shortly after Pathways started. We expanded to 5 days a week, and we're just growing rapidly.
If someone has some health issues, we will make sure that our nurses are on that and encouraging that person to come to the clinic.
I used to hear voices, doctors from Pathways gave me medication for schizophrenia. I take the medication voluntarily.
Our participants really have access to the highest quality healthcare here at Pathways, and we provide visits on site. We have a medical assistant who does our labs right here in the office, and the relationships that they have with our staff really make them feel at ease.
We have psychiatrists available on all of our teams. We have medication-assisted treatment programs, so people that are using opioids, people that are using heroin can get into treatment here.
We began a Suboxone clinic last year. We've had really great success with that.
We're a harm reduction program, meaning we work with people where they are, and we measure little successes, and we try and help them get to a point where they're well.
When I came here, I had a lot of problems. I didn't know about the heart problem till I got here. I didn't know about the neuropathy till I got here. I see Dr. Hale every Monday at 11:30. And he's good.
I was homeless on the Parkway since 2010 until Patrick came to my rescue and got me an apartment. It was scary a little bit for me. Then I got used to being in my own apartment. Oh boy, it was great. It still is.
So people move in, and sometimes changes are very quick to see. And people start to remember who they are. You know, they remember their basic humanity.
The best is to wake up and say it's yours.
Here's my men's room. As you can see, it's all equals.
Keeping it clean, waking up every day, frying an egg.
Here's my canned goods.
Having chicken cutlet tonight, you know, and then you can go in the ice box. Feed my cat. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful life.
I've seen some of our participants totally transform once they were placed in housing in their own apartment. Makes me feel good because I know that he is really appreciating and has made that place a sanctuary for himself. Just like seeing that in their face that they did it too. It's not, we didn't do it, they did it.
It's hard to like imagine a person being homeless or being on the street for 15, 20 years. But once you see them get housed and you see all these supports surrounding them and you see how they just open up and just blossom and just start doing things that they didn't do before, start becoming like citizens, you know, in the community, start giving back, start volunteering.
We have grown organically based on need to serve more than 400 people and providing furniture for agency service homeless people all over the city. People moving out of homelessness do not have to move into an empty space because the whole idea is that it's a home and 4 walls don't make a home. So we started this furniture bank.
Part of the issue for Pathways was they were spending a lot of money on new furniture, upwards of $80,000 a year. So Pathways decided to start a furniture bank for the whole city. Now, agencies can bring people here and get the whole package in a day. We have a supported employment program where our member agencies can send us folks who haven't worked in a while. They may be returning from prison, they may have been homeless for a long time, and we have them here for a year, train them on kind of the soft skills of working again.
I wound up homeless because I came out of the prison system. And when I came out, I had nowhere to go. I lost everything. My children, my family, I didn't have nothing. So I'm very grateful for the Philadelphia Furniture Bank because these guys, you know, they're great. It's like family.
We hear stories of people sleeping on pallets, families having dinner on the stairs, sitting on the floor to have dinner. It's like they're camping in their own place. And so, yeah, we're able to provide what we see as kind of that last step for people to really reclaim their lives.
One of the things I love about this job is I actually get to see people come in and then I get to see the miracles happen. And that is the greatest feeling ever. It is the greatest job ever.
I was saved. I'm saved. And I'll be honest about it. I am definitely saved. I have a second chance at life.
Thank you very much, Pathways, for helping me every way that was possible. Thank you. I give you 100% thumbs up.
That's the magic now that's coming back in my life because I have a place. Before I had no place. I traveled, slept in the streets. I didn't have anyone or want anyone to come over and see me, and now they do.
It's always nice to have a place for your own. Always go home freely and make a life for yourself.
They fill a void in my heart. Like there was always this missing part in my heart, like where I didn't belong in society, I didn't belong, and now I feel like part of a family.
I do have a place where I can just lay my head, just make me feel cute.
At the end of the day, I'll go home, and it's great because I get to go home.
Waves the greatest though, that's all I can say.
A dream
Come true. Yes, it's a dream come true.
Okay. All right, so now I'd like to introduce Christine Simiriglia from Pathways to Housing. Thanks, Christine.
I'm really happy to be here with you all today and humbled that I was asked. And I'm very grateful to Chris for dealing with the video because it would have been all messed up if I tried to do it. So thank you for taking some time out today to join this keynote session. And I want to talk a little bit about my journey, you know, from when I was in school to kind of where I am now. And there's a couple of things when I start talking that I want you to think about. And then I'm going to take a lot of questions because rather than talk at you for the time we have together, I'd rather talk with you. So one thing is, you know, finding solutions to impossible problems. I don't believe that there's anything that's impossible, right? I believe that people either have a will to solve a problem or there's not a will. And so then it's a matter of how do we create will, but I don't believe in impossibilities. The other things I want you to think of is never to put yourself in a box. This is kind of a theme you'll hear through my little story, and always be open to opportunity, all kinds of opportunity, because there's always stuff floating around and sometimes we're just not open to seeing it. So a little bit about me. So I started school a little early. So I was a freshman at St. Joe's many years ago. And I was 17 and I studied international relations and Soviet studies. And Soviet studies is probably something that a lot of you have never even heard of because we don't have that anymore because the Soviet Union does not exist. But at the time, my idea was that I was going to be a diplomat and that I was interested in working on the relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union. So that's where I was putting a lot of my energy. And then, and this is the goofy part, I developed a crush on a guy that worked in campus ministry named David Levigny. And David started the St. Joe's Committee for the Homeless. And I joined the St. Joe's Committee for the Homeless because I had a crush on David Levigny. And not really proud of that, but that's kind of how I got introduced to issues of homelessness in our city. And you know, with the St. Joe's Committee for the Homeless, we would go out on the streets and bring people sandwiches and something hot to drink at night and just hand out blankets. And we did that in concert with the Philadelphia Committee for the Homeless. And, you know, we were doing that one night a week, and that was kind of what the committee did. And then I found myself showing up there 2 nights a week. And then I would go in and help with paperwork on Saturday. And I was just drawn to that work and to working in that arena and just wanting to fill in gaps and do whatever needed to be done. And it felt like where I was supposed to be. I I mean, I think there was a 5-year stretch where I was not at a holiday dinner with my family because I was working in a soup kitchen or, bringing dinner out to people on the street. And that felt right to me. And all of my ideas about being a diplomat, which would never have worked out for me because I have a big mouth and I speak my truth and I have no concept of how to be diplomatic or political, but went out the window. And this kind of became what I do. So, left St. Joe's, have a degree in international relations. Sometimes we don't do what we study, and that's okay. And then worked in a bunch of jobs, and Chris was nice enough to read that long bio that talked about all of my progression in our systems of care. A lot of work around homelessness, and then I got into a lot of work that was more focused on people who were homeless and had multiple other needs: mental health needs, drug and alcohol needs, intellectual disabilities, major medical issues that weren't being cared for. And these are people that have disability piled on disability piled on disability. And I think a lot of my career, I think I built my career on fixing problems and filling in gaps. And that is a population where there was a huge gap in service, right? The people that Pathway serves are people that have either gotten, for lack of a better term, they've either flunked out of every other program that our system has to offer, just gotten kicked out of care, or they've never really connected. And as a service system, we did not have anything to offer them to meet their needs. And an opportunity came along to do this Housing First program. There was a Housing First program working in New York. And I was working at the Mental Health Association. I was in the process of leaving my position because I had worked myself up into this job where I was in an office and I had an assistant and I had a lot of paper and I went to a lot of meetings, but I never saw any of the people we served anymore. And that just was not comfortable for me. And at the same time, the city of Philadelphia was looking to start this Housing First program. So they called me in and to see if I was interested. And I really didn't know much about Housing First. And so I listened to some people tell me about the model and quite frankly thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever heard in my life. Because I came up through the traditional system where people went from shelter to transitional housing if they behaved. And then maybe they got into some permanent housing, but they had to be medicated and they had to be in treatment. And, all of these measures that as a system we put in front of people before we let them move on with their lives. And I thought that with all of our knowledge and all of our education and all of the tools that we have, that we could tell who was housing ready and who wasn't housing ready. And what I learned with Housing First is we don't know anything about who's housing ready or not housing ready, and everyone deserves an opportunity. And so I went into this looking at this program thinking it was bananas. And so I did my due diligence and I visited other Housing First programs and I looked at the data and people were doing well. And, and I had to bottle up all of what I thought I knew really and look at, what I didn't know. And so we embarked on doing this Housing First program in Philly, Pathways to Housing PA, in 2008. So it's almost 13 years ago. And I have to tell you, it's like a time void for me because I really love this job and I love the staff that I work with. And it feels like yesterday that we started this. And I think part of that is because we have had an opportunity for 13 years to grow and add services to meet needs and to find solutions to some problems that our city's care services were struggling with. And that being able to be creative and meet needs is what fuels me. And I think it's what fuels a lot of my staff. And so the job doesn't get old. So at this point in time, we are supporting about 550 people who are formerly chronically homeless. Most have a serious and persistent mental illness. On top of that, we have a lot of addiction disorder, a lot of heroin use, a surprising amount of people with intellectual disabilities who were poor, so they never as children got diagnosed, and they ended up as adults with no care and a lot of issues, a lot with major medical issues. And so as the years have gone by, we have looked at where people were not getting the services they need, and if we couldn't bend that service system to meet the needs of this population, we created the services so that we could show other people that they could be done. And that's why we have a clinic, and that's why we are doing treatment for people with opioid use disorder. And it's why we opened the furniture bank, because people for decades have been saying somebody should do a furniture bank. Why doesn't the city do a furniture bank? The government should do a furniture bank. And one day I was like, it's not rocket science. And so we opened a furniture bank that now serves about 55 agencies throughout the city. So, you know, I've had this career of fixing and creating through all of my jobs. And that's really what has fueled me. But the only reason I've been able to do that is because I never have put myself in a box. I've never said, you know, I do this type of service, I do this type of programming. I'm open to opportunity, and my brain works like a jigsaw puzzle, right? There's always pieces floating out here. There's, you know, I hear about money coming down the pipe, like the American Recovery Act that Joe Biden is now, that money's being pushed down to the states. There's a lot of money there around housing development. There's a lot of money there to bolster the amount of HUD vouchers that we have on the streets in order to house people with. So, you know, we're looking at that. At the same time, we're looking at the latest analysis of who are the population on our streets currently, and that changes, right? So we're seeing a younger demographic, and we're seeing a demographic using a lot of heroin. So how are we meeting the needs of that population? Is there money there? Is it something the city wants to match and contribute to? So kind of, you know, always doing that dance. And I encourage everybody to try to stay open in whatever field you're in, right? Keep up on the literature, stay open to what other people are doing. Keep your eyes and ears open if you have an idea, because somewhere out there, there's going to be a way to kick that off. And you just have to be ready for it and open to it. So, you know, we've grown into this huge organization. We are about to do a couple of things that I want to tell you about really quickly. The two women in the video toward the end, Marianne and Pam, are part of our first cohort of people who are going to join our alumni association, which means they're graduating out of Pathway Services. You know, we have a service system where if you are in a high level of case management services and you've been on the streets for a long period of time, nobody expects you to ever graduate out, right? We keep the bar low. We expect that you're always going to need a voucher, you're probably never going to go back to work, and you're always going to need case managers that come and see you often, right? And do all these things for you. And we don't look at it that way. We look at it as you are people who have not had access to opportunities to do for yourself. And we're going to give you access to those opportunities. And at some point, you might not need us anymore. And that's good, right? And so we are about to graduate 10 people out of services, a high level of services. We provide something called modified assertive community treatment. It's a very high and expensive level of care in our Medicaid system. And they're graduating. So that's, you know, I'm thrilled that we're now going to have some flow so that we can create space for people that are still on the streets and move people who are doing better off the Medicaid roles in terms of their case management services but they're still going to be part of our community. They're still going to be welcome to the clinic or welcome to the office or welcome to any activities that we're doing. And they're going to have their own little alumni association meetings. So I'm thrilled about that. The other thing, which is just kind of the next logical step for us, is that in a city with a 25% poverty rate and a lot of empty units and vacant properties, we're going to start doing some housing development, because a lot of the low-income housing development in our cities is done by for-profit developers. And the for-profit developers have to make a profit. It's not bad, it's not wrong, it's just, you know, business is what they do. So they rent in 60 to 80% of the poverty range, right? So the higher end, the rents are for people that are below the poverty scale. In a city like ours, where the poverty rate is between 25 and 26%, people are living in the 20 to 40% range of the poverty scale. So we want to start developing for those people. So, you know, that's kind of what I do, who I am, how I got here. You know, I guess I just want to hear your questions. What can I answer for you about, you know, moving forward, getting things done, what we do at Pathways, how we've been able to be the square peg in the round hole and create new services. And I'm going to rely on Chris to feed me the chat questions, because it's very confusing for me.
Sure. Thank you so much, Christine. That was fascinating. And we've got a bunch of questions in the chat, and I still encourage others to continue writing questions. I think the first one we received, and I think this is probably one of the first things I wondered when I reached out to you, was just how has the pandemic impacted and influenced your services and the programs that you offer?
So at Pathways, the pandemic, I think, had an effect that was different than it was at some other agencies. So the first thing in March of last year, when, you know, this first hit and we first started to really get some idea of the depth of the problem, we were in the process of bringing up a new team, and each team that we have serves about 75 people. And usually it takes about 18 months to build those relationships, bring those people in off the streets, get everybody housed, you know, to be at full operating capacity. We realized that people couldn't be in shelter and people couldn't be in the on the streets during this pandemic. People needed to be in spaces of their own, like we needed to stay in spaces of our own. So between March and June of last year, we moved 75 people into housing. Some of that was putting the cart before the horse and, you know, not getting the paperwork signed till later, which, you know, would drive HUD crazy and some other funders. But, you know, my thing was, let's get people in and we'll figure out that other stuff on the back end. During that time, we also realized that a lot of the other services in our system that people depend on were either closing or were limiting hours, like the soup kitchens and the food cupboards and some of the other clinics, and people weren't able to get their methadone if they were on methadone, and there were just all of these crazy things happening because other people were shutting down. So we had to ramp up to fill some of those needs. So we our pantry, we have a little emergency pantry, that went on steroids. Like, the pantry got built up, and we ended up starting to provide a lot of food for the folks that are with us that have zero income, you know, don't have benefits, can't work right now. Our clinic, because people weren't going to the emergency room, was just bombarded. So everybody was coming to the clinic for everything. So we had to learn a new way of doing business in the clinic. We had to space a lot of stuff out. We had to bring on additional staff so that we could get people in and out quickly. We had to limit our hospitality services, which really made me sad, because we've always we have a space where people can come in and get a cup of coffee, and if they don't want to talk to us, they don't have to talk to us, right? We have a library, we like all of this stuff that's just open all day for folks, and we had to limit that, and that made us sad. But at the end of all of this, as we're I feel like we're at the beginning of the end, maybe, hopefully. We're ending a little stronger than we were before. I mean, our staff are amazing, and they've been through hell, but they've come out of it, and they know what they've accomplished, and that's an incredible thing. Our financial health is good, which is a big worry through all of this. And we have been offered another opportunity. You know, we filled that team quickly, and got all those people off the streets to do another team. And so we're talking with our funders now about what that's going to look like. So, you know, the pandemic's been awful, and it's been hard to keep staff, but the staff that we have just been absolutely amazing, and everyone has gone above and beyond.
Okay, so I've seen several versions of this question. I think it's probably something that everybody wonders. And the baseline is like, how can we help? What can your average everyday person do to help that's not just coming to help at a soup kitchen once per year, but on an everyday, regular basis?
So there's actually, there's a whole section on our website about what people can do. But a couple of things. One is, and you know, it has to do with your comfort level, but when you see someone who's homeless, you know, acknowledge them, talk to them, even nod and say hi, right? Because people are very used to people just walking by them, and that wears away at your humanity, and you start to think of yourself differently. You know, I don't ever really advise people to give money to people on the streets, because a lot of people are just really are feeding their habits with that money. And but the other thing I say is, you know, do what you're comfortable with. There might be an instance where you just feel the need to give. Go ahead and do that. You know, follow your heart and when you're engaging people. But what's important is the engagement. What's important is the conversation or the nod or the acknowledgement more than the gift. And then on a larger scale, I would say find an organization, because I know this isn't necessarily a local group on this call, that has a good reputation. Do some due diligence, make sure that they're an organization that you want to support, and then figure out what they need. At Pathways, we have a food pantry that we're always asking people to do drives to keep full. That's a big one. We have an Amazon wish list, and that's where we get most of the housewares for when we move people into a new apartment. So, you know, forks and knives and dishes and drives for things like that are always fabulous. Volunteering, the Furniture Bank has lots of opportunities for volunteers, for individuals, and for groups, for team building activities. We do a lot of that at the Furniture Bank. Writing a check is always good too. You know, I never say no to money, because I know that we are good stewards of people's money, and we like to do that. The other thing is, I just saw it flash up, and I always forget to mention this on the chat. The Furniture Bank takes donations of furniture. Some can be picked up, some can be dropped off, and the Furniture Bank website you can get through the Pathways website, and there's a form on there if anyone has something. We do a lot of work with colleges, because, you know, dorm furniture turns over every, I don't know, 7-10 years, depending on the school. And we love dorm furniture. That's a biggie. And it's, you know, one of the greatest joys is seeing a child who's hasn't had their own bed, now moving into a house, and you know, you come in and you deliver the bed and you put the bureau down, and that kid immediately starts folding their clothes and putting it in the dresser, because now they have a place to keep their treasured belongings, and that's amazing. So yeah, donations and support at the furniture bank is always welcome as well.
Okay, I have a quick question and then a broader question someone asked. My quick question is, I'm just curious how much, like, what the ratio is of state and federal funding that you rely on versus donations. And then someone else asked, many cities are proposing legislature that is hostile to the homeless population. Do you face any opposition to housing first programs and other services?
So in terms of funding, the majority of our funding is federal, but and that pays for the basics, but the stuff that allows us to build relationships and to make someone's house a home, we fundraise for. So for example, most of our services are billable to Medicaid. So the case management teams and the psychiatrist and our doctor and our nurses, we can bill to Medicaid and Medicare. And most of the housing subsidies we can bill through HUD. But then there are people who don't fit into the definitions that can be pretty strict for those pots of money. There could be, we were working with a woman who was sex trafficked from Thailand. She was an illegal immigrant. She didn't speak any English. She wasn't eligible for HUD funds. We could, for that kind of stuff, that's fundraising. That's, we have to use money that we fundraise to support people like that. Making sure that people have, dishes and spoons and stuff when they move in, that's fundraising. All of those things. Making sure that my case managers, if they need to buy somebody a pair of shoes because the person doesn't have shoes and we don't have a donation in their size, that they feel comfortable enough to just buy the shoes and not to have to get 7 levels of permission to do that, right? And that's yeah, that's all part of fundraising. There is a lot of hostility, especially right now in our nation. The past 4 years it's gotten a lot worse, and I'm hoping that it will get a little better. The hostility, I believe, is frustration. So, it comes out, people don't know what to do with their frustration. So it comes out as, I hate these homeless people. I don't want them in our community. They're no good, whatever the conversation becomes. But it's really people's frustration with a problem that's so large, they can't figure out what they can do to make it any better. And I see part of our job as creating opportunities for people to contribute, for people to give, for people to feel like they are able to make even a small difference in this huge problem. And our problem isn't homelessness. That's not our problem. Our problem is poverty. Our problem is racial justice. Our problem is for-profit prisons. Our problem is an education system that doesn't educate our children. These are the problems that have created this outcome of homelessness. Until we really accept that and start looking at our base, systems, which, for the most part are all profit making these days and need to not be, then we're going to continue to have a homeless problem. We have a lack of jobs. We have a lot of people using drugs because they don't feel like they have any purpose. Well, what gives us purpose in life? For a lot of us, it's employment, right? Our purpose is why we get up in the morning and go to work and do things. And unless we can create employment for folks that need it, they're going to find other things to do during the course of the day, which may or may not be prudent. I don't have a good answer for a very bad problem other than taking some of that hate, recognizing it as frustration, and then turning that frustration into some kind of action. And it has to start, it doesn't start with large groups of people, and it doesn't start at a high level. It starts with grassroots attempts to move the needle forward, and then they join together and it gets bigger, and they work on specific pieces of legislation, and they work on specific problems that are being faced right now by people, and that momentum grows. And we lost a lot of that momentum in this country, especially over the past couple of years, and I'm hoping that we see that start to come back, and for people to start to make that connection again between, you know, poverty, education, employment, like prison, with, you know, the amount of people we have on our streets, the amount of people we have unemployed, and all the other issues that have us tied up in knots.
Okay, I think we've got time for about one or two more questions. One was that I would imagine that many of your folks have given up on help. How do you connect with people who have effectively been shut out repeatedly?
We wear away at the stone. We start to build a relationship. We see people on a regular basis, whether they are really seem happy to see us or not. We will continue to go back. You know, sometimes we see people and we have the FU crowd. It's like, you know, people have been here all the time. You're just another one. Get away from me. Okay. And we start to make small promises, and then we keep those small promises. And that's how you build a relationship. Never promise something you can't do, or you can't come up with. But, you know, if we say we're going to be there on Wednesday with coffee, then we're there on Wednesday with coffee. If we say, you know, we just want to drive around a neighborhood and see if you like the neighborhood, we're going to show up and we're going to drive around that neighborhood. I don't care what else happens, but we are going to keep that promise. And keeping those small promises is what allows people to start to trust you, because these are people that have been sold a lot of malarkey over the years, and people have not kept their promises. And that's part of the reason they shut people out. So our way back in is keeping our promises, keeping our word, and continuing to show up.
Okay, and I think we have probably one more question. And that was, have you been able to help your population find vaccines, or has there been any effort on your part to try to get that started?
Thank you for asking that question. This is something that I'm also like super proud of. It was a coordination nightmare, but we have managed to get about 350 of the people we work with vaccinated. We had vaccine available through our partner agency in our clinic, but they didn't have the manpower to do the vaccines. So we coordinated our team nurses as the manpower, and our different service teams coordinated with the people they serve. And we set up these very elaborate schedules because, you know, as soon as the vaccine's defrosted, you have to use all the vaccine you defrosted for that day. And we can't put 6 people in one of our vans now. We can only put 2 people, right? So we have the driver and then a person over here and a person over here. So we set up these very elaborate transportation systems and vaccine systems and tracking systems, and managed to get almost 2/3 of our population vaccinated. And the rest are straggling in now. The pharmacy we do business with is around the corner from our office, and they have just gotten their allotment of vaccine. They're a small private pharmacy. So most of our staff are vaccinated. There's a handful of people who are still refusing, but we're, again, wearing away at the stone, and the majority of our clients are vaccinated. And these are very vulnerable folks. So yeah, that's the month that we put into that. At the end of that process, seeing how many people we had actually been able to touch really gave me great joy.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really fascinating. I think our attendees found it really fascinating, and I think we probably could be asking questions all day if we had the time. One thing I want to say is I'm really excited that we're going to be able to hopefully stay in touch, and we'll be in Philadelphia next April. So we're going to look for different ways throughout this year, this next 12 months, to try to help as much as we can and try to get our students involved.
That's terrific. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone who's joined us. And I just put the website in the chat. It's pathwaystohousingpa.org. Please check it out. Please, feel free to donate if you're in the Philadelphia area. Maybe look into, if you're not from the Philadelphia area, maybe look into your local, similar organizations that you may be able to help with. And if there's not a furniture bank in your city, maybe you can speak to someone. Maybe you can try to start that yourself. Thank you again. I just want to let everyone know we have a few more sessions this afternoon. We've got session 3 is starting in just a few minutes. Session 4 after that. There is a wonderful crossover event with SRHC this afternoon about social justice. That link is in your portal. And then for the faculty and staff, we have a virtual happy hour called Open a Tab with the NRHC Exec Board. Fun double meaning. And then tonight there is at 8 p.m. a virtual Zoom dance party, which is 80s themed for all the students. Have at it, have fun. Thank you, everybody. I'm looking forward to seeing many of your presentations. Tomorrow, session 5 starts at 9 a.m. and then we have the closing ceremony and the award ceremony at 11. So have a great afternoon. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you again, Christine.
Bye.
Take care.